Ladies and gentlemen, this is Coda Jacobs, the crusader and visionary behind a brighter future in wrestling. If you're an honorable and noble public servant like myself, you are listening to the Game Changer Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Nate the Great!
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is NateFNGreat, and welcome to the Game Changer Podcast, where I look to change the game one day at a time. It's the first day of the new format, as I mentioned on Twitter. I'm going to be starting off with one of two fantasy bookings that I have, and what that means is that I'm going to take something that's either wrestling related, movie related, playwright related, anything that could possibly have been written better. I'm going to give you my vision of it, because I'm an effing genius. No ding required. So, for this one, we're going to be looking at a bit of an interesting one, because I know that people like Adam Blampier and some other big-time names do these fantasy bookings, and they focus on a lot of, like, the big storylines, like, you know, how they would book The Fiend, how they would book Nakamura, how they would book Goldberg, and, you know, everything else in between. I'm actually going to be focusing on some stories that I think don't get enough attention on, and really kind of create my own sort of cinematic universe here. So I'm going to try to make sure that everything does kind of make sense, but also fits together congruently. So I'll explain more of that as time goes on. But for this week, and for this first episode, we're going to be looking at the WWE career of one Diamond Dallas Page. Yes, the master of the Diamond Cutter, who is now the fitness guru behind DDP Yoga. This is a man who had a great career in WCW, multi-time world champion, had some of the best matches that you could possibly remember, including one matchup with Goldberg, which is honestly one of the things that people forgot, is that DDP can make Goldberg look really good. And then he went to the WWE, and his career just kind of fell off fast and hard. I mean, he came in as the stalker for Undertaker's wife, and he did this weird deal where he had like a shrine where he's like, I want my Sarah. I need my Sarah, as a way to kind of get into the mind of the Undertaker, which, in all honesty, just weird and just no in every single way. He would go on to have a SummerSlam cage match with Kanyon to take on the Brothers of Destruction, which during that matchup he got injured and solemnly defeated. Would not come back until a few months later after his injury. He would become a positive reinforcement coach, motivational speaker, if you will, and had a feud with Christian, which resulted in them fighting at WrestleMania for the European title, which DDP won. Awesome. And then he got drafted over to SmackDown a little later on, and would have his career shortened by an inadvertent neck injury by Bob Holly, which, ironically enough, Bob Holly would go on to have a neck injury as well due to being powerbombed by Brock Lesnar. It's a sort of kind of sad tale when you talk about DDP's WWE career, and it's just one of those things where they had a big time start, and honestly one of the biggest stars coming out of WCW for the Invasion storyline, and they just did not know what to do with him. So, oh boy, let me take a crack at it. So, honestly, I'm going to keep the Stalker deal, but I'm going to tone back on some of the things. I'm not going to have him focusing on Undertaker's wife. Instead, the Stalker is going to be focusing more on Undertaker and his family. You're going to see moments of where, they're, having family time, going to school, things at the park, that kind of deal, which, obviously nowadays that probably wouldn't really work out so well because people are very hypersensitive about that, but they also think that it's creepy that an older man would be spying on, family members at a playground, but striking that out. So we see even moments where Undertaker is acting more human than as the wrestler and more as the dead man, and people know that. So it's kind of one of those things, we're kind of peeling the layer of the Undertaker. Undertaker's not taking this very lightly. He wants to know who the Stalker is. He wants to know who he is so he can kick his ass. And it's revealed that the Stalker will reveal himself at King of the Ring. So King of the Ring comes around. Majority of everything that happens there stays the same. One major thing that I would change is that just as they finish doing the pyro and the quick introduction, Undertaker immediately goes to the ring. He's got a microphone in hand. And he's saying, I don't want to wait at all for this Stalker to reveal himself. Reveal yourself to me right now so I can take you down and kick your ass. And wouldn't you know it, there's a couple of men that are dressed up in ski masks and dark. They're coming to the ring, and Undertaker just beats him one after another, until one comes up from behind with a lead pipe and just bashes right behind the Undertaker's knee. Undertaker is, screaming in pain. He is just absolutely taken out. Mask gets pulled off. It's revealed to be DDP. DDP goes on to just beat down on the Undertaker to a point where security has to pull him off. He beats down a couple of security guys, but not before landing one more final blow to Undertaker's knee and seemingly taking him out of commission. It gets to be a couple weeks after the incident, and DDP is addressing the crowd via satellite because he doesn't think that they deserve to be in his presence in the ring. So DDP says, I attacked The Undertaker because he made this claim about making people famous. Hey, you lock up in the ring with me and I'll make you famous. Undertaker, I've been famous longer than you've had that catchphrase. Probably even longer than you've had your entire career. I've been famous as the best that WCW has to offer. One of the fastest rising stars that WCW had to offer. I'm already famous, but I want to return the favor. I want to make you famous, Taker. I want to make you famous by having you be the one to lose to my first match at SummerSlam. He lays out the challenge. Undertaker obviously agrees to it. Build-up goes into it. We see more, promo deals, and we see Undertaker still favoring the leg a little bit. It's majorly taped up. Going into SummerSlam, Undertaker is definitely not at 100%, and that does indeed cost him. DDP whacks on the leg as many times as he can. Undertaker's not able to get that much in the way of offense. He's not able to hit the old school. He hits a weak choke slam because his left leg gives out. He can't get him up for a tombstone. DDP is able to hit the diamond cutter on him. 1, 2, 3. And DDP gets the victory in shocking, convincing fashion. He wins clean. He doesn't use a pipe. He doesn't use the alliance. He beats him clean. So DDP is walking around with his chip on his shoulder, and he's beating, WWE superstars left and right. Right, he's a big-time name. This is a guy who beat The Undertaker in his first matchup, quote-unquote. So it builds up to a rematch between Undertaker and DDP at Unforgiven. And DDP, he's still got this chip on his shoulder. He's thinking, I can beat him. No problem. Shane and Stephanie, they believe that he can do it, but they're going to make sure that DDP wins by ensuring that the Alliance does indeed get involved. And DDP's kind of wait, so you don't think I can beat him by myself? And they're like, no, not like that. We just want to give that reassurance. And also we want to make sure that the Undertaker is taken out permanently at Unforgiven. So we kind of see a little bit of DDP having a bit of a change of heart. He's kind of like, wait, you're kind of questioning my ability here. But he doesn't go full for it until we reach Unforgiven. At this point, we see Undertaker and DDP have just another slugfest between the two of them. But there is interference by the Alliance. They get involved. Finally, there comes a point where DDP is just like, get the hell out of here. This is my matchup. I don't need your help. I don't need anybody but he getting involved with this. Undertaker is able to hit a last ride on DDP for the 1-2-3, and the score is tied up at 1 apiece. So they go for the rubber match at No Mercy, and DDP and the Undertaker, they state to each other that nobody from the WWF, nobody from the Alliance will be allowed at ringside. It's a one-fall finish matchup, no excuses, no nothing. During the build-up, we see Alliance members trying to attack The Undertaker to give DDP that advantage. But this is where DDP has started saying, like, no. This does not involve you. This is between me and Taker. So he is literally slowly starting to turn face more as time goes on. At No Mercy, it's another great slugfest between the two of them, but it's honestly one of those matches where you see anybody could possibly win here. We see the last ride given to DDP, 1, 2, and DDP kicks out. Undertaker's thinking, that's never happened before. DDP hits a diamond cutter, 1, 2, Taker kicks out. DDP is in shock. We see just, back and forth between the two of them until Undertaker hits another last ride, but he figures, I gotta put him away. Right, so he hits the tombstone, the first time in a while that he's hit that move, and he pins DDP 1, 2, 3. After the match is over, Undertaker looks over at DDP. DDP looks back, and they have this kind of mutual respect kind of look between the two of them. They give each other a bit of a nod of acknowledgement, some way, just letting them know that, hey, we've earned each other's respect. Night after No Mercy, we see DDP get fired from the Alliance. Basically, the Alliance says you couldn't get the job done. You didn't accept our help. We made you. We made you the star that you are. DDP says, I made myself a star. I didn't need a gang to help me defeat anyone. I was beating everybody by myself, and I did it with respect. They beat down DDP, fire him from the group, oust him from the group, and seemingly that's the last we see of DDP until we reach Survivor Series and the Immunity Battle Royal. So all the participants that got involved, I wouldn't change too much about that. I would see, guys like Billy Gunn, Taz was involved, Tess, Sky Too High. All these people are all getting involved with this. And in the end, it looks like Tess picked up the victory after eliminating Billy Gunn. However, when the bell sounded, there was a masked man that slipped into the ring and quietly rolled out of the ring. Nobody really realizes that until the end when the masked man gets in the ring and throws Tess over the top rope. Masked man takes his mask off and, shocker, it's DDP. DDP wins the Immunity Battle Royal. He's immune from being fired for 1 full year. And the Alliance, especially Shane and Stephanie, are thinking, we are going to have to deal with this guy for a year when we win? Are you kidding me? They're just in shock. And even the WWE guys are kind of like, well, whose side is he on? Is he part of the Alliance? I don't remember him saying that he was a part of WWE. And obviously, Survivor Series match goes through as it did, where WWE picks up the win and owns the full rights, full ownerships. So, going into a little bit of the matches, I'm going to kind of do some fast forwarding a bit soon, but I definitely do want to go from here till WrestleMania 18 and give you guys a little bit of build-up for DDP as a character as well as the wrestler. So DDP goes on to Vengeance, and he takes on Test, the guy who he supposedly screwed over in the Immunity Battle Royal. It's a hard-fought matchup. DDP picks up the win with the Diamond Cutter, and DDP would go on to win a number one contenders match against The Rock to face off against Chris Jericho for the undisputed title at the Royal Rumble. And this is one of those things where I think a lot of people would be like, well, that's not fair. DDP doesn't. Here's the thing. You've seen The Rock and Jericho so many times in the last few months, especially during the Alliance angle. Time to change it up and bring out new characters. And honestly, DDP versus Chris Jericho is a matchup I really would like to see. And I think it would be a great matchup between the two of them at Royal Rumble. It seems kind of fitting. They could talk a little bit about their days in WCW, and Chris Jericho can talk about how DDP has not done enough to, earn that spot. And Chris Jericho's been working his entire life and blah, blah, blah. But DDP, having the resiliency, the heart of a champion, showcasing that he wants to be the undisputed champion. He wants to be the champion, maybe even more than Chris Jericho. But in the end, Chris Jericho cheats to win and beats DDP at the Royal Rumble. Going to No Way Out, DDP gets into a feud with The Undertaker. Now, this is heel Undertaker. Remember, he's the guy who's basically demanding respect. He wants people to respect him because of who he is, because of his stature. And DDP is thinking, dude, we fought and I earned your respect because I gave you everything. You gave me everything. This is not you. What is going on? Undertaker actually beats down DDP, beats him to a pulp where it leads to a match between two of them at No Way Out. In that matchup, it looks like Undertaker's going to pick up the victory, but Ric Flair gets involved, and DDP hits the Diamond Cutter, pinning the Undertaker. A little bit of shenanigans, but he gets another win over the Undertaker here. This is going to be crucial. Bear that in mind. So Undertaker will still go on to face off against Ric Flair. And the main event will be a triple threat match between Rock, Austin, and Jericho for the undisputed title. NWO get involved. Jericho wins. That kind of deal. Now, Austin does indeed get a couple of licks on the NWO, but he's actually focused on a different opponent going into WrestleMania, because in all honesty, the thing about it is that Austin was kind of upset about facing off against Scott Hall because he was not in the best mindset going into WrestleMania 2018. Jeez, they're getting way too far ahead. So we're going to actually take Scott Hall out of the match. And honestly, you could have Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. They can be put into the tag team title matchup in I guess you could have it be like a tag team turmoil matchup, where I think it'll be a little bit safer, and I think that it might be kind of a cool spot to have NWO maybe win the tag team titles on that night. It's just a thought. So Austin is actually going to be facing off against DDP, and DDP is the one who actually makes the challenge to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And you can also, again, bring up the fact that the both of them were raised in WCW, and now Austin is a homegrown, WWE, also a homegrown, huge WWE guy that grown out of it. So he wants to prove himself as the best, and DDP knows that in order to prove himself as the best, he has to beat the best, especially at WrestleMania. So he lays the challenge to Austin, and Stone Cold Steve Austin accepts. We get the match between the two of them, and it's an instant classic. When you look at some of the headline matches on there, you do have the matches between, for the tag team titles, you still have Rock and Hogan. You could still have Triple H and Jericho. But also a headline matchup would be DDP versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, who's the toughest guy in WWE right now? Is it Stone Cold Steve Austin, or is it DDP? Because both men have definitely been going through a lot in their careers. So Matchup ends with a diamond cutter. DDP beats Austin at WrestleMania. Now, I know that probably a lot of people might think that Austin would not put over DDP at WrestleMania, but I do believe that Austin has a big enough star quality, and he definitely is one of those guys who has won enough times at WrestleMania that he would definitely want to put over somebody who's probably going to be there a little bit longer than he has, because Austin is still going to be taking time off. However, I'll get into that in just a minute. So DDP has this huge victory going after beating Stone Cold Steve Austin. But he still may have some doubters going into the post-WrestleMania deal. So what we have is DDP feuding with Rob Van Dam for the Intercontinental Championship, and he wins it at Backlash. Having DDP as the Intercontinental Champion would definitely put a lot of prestige to that title, especially if you can have him fight in a lot of great dream matches in that deal. I mean, have DDP headline pay-per-views, have him go against, Eddie Guerrero at Judgment Day, have him go up against, Benoit at the Following Vengeance that year, have him face off against so many different people that he really not only helps elevate the Intercontinental title, but elevate the people that he's working with as well. Kind of like how John Cena was helping elevate the roster when he was the United States champion. In the King of the Ring tournament, he is the one who's actually going to be in the qualifying match or first round match against Brock Lesnar. He puts up a good fight, but Brock Lesnar just munches him, and he beats him 1-2-3 in that matchup. Then we have Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Brock Lesnar at the pay-per-view with a little bit more build between the two of them. And in all honesty, I think that's going to keep Austin long enough for him to put over Brock, and he'll take some time off from here till about the No Way Out time, I believe it was. Because in all honesty, it makes sense, in my opinion, to give him that time off so that way he can rest, recuperate, take care of anything that he has going on during that time. So DDP is holding on to that championship, the Intercontinental title, all the way till a couple weeks after Survivor Series. This is where the time skip is going to be taking place. He's taking on everybody that has stepped up to challenge him. And a couple weeks after Elimination Chamber, he loses the IC title to Chris Jericho, which means that we're not going to get that winner-take-all matchup between Kane and Triple H where, oh, dear Lord, just no. A huge bucket of no right here. I will tell you guys this, that a future booking is going to be that Reign of Terror. I'll get more into that, and I will actually plant some seeds into that during this broadcast. So, DDP has held on to the title until about a couple of Raws after Survivor Series. So he had a pretty good lengthy run with the IC title. He goes on to get the rematch against Jericho at Armageddon. By that point, he and Christian have lost the titles to Booker T and Goldust, because that was one of the best comedy tag teams ever. DDP is looking for the next challenge, and he believes that the next challenge is going to be against a headliner, a showstopper, a main event player. That's right. We get the match between DDP and Shawn Michaels, the Raw before the Royal Rumble. And honestly, it's one of those matches where both of them just lay it all on the line. We see Shawn Michaels, we see DDP just having a great matchup, but it gets disrupted by Chris Jericho and Christian. They have a tag team match where DDP and Shawn Michaels pick up the victory, but we get the rematch between the two of them at Royal Rumble, in which DDP picks up the victory, and Shawn Michaels is actually going to be pulling double duty. He has this matchup here, and then he goes on to be number one in the Royal Rumble, and Chris Jericho still continues to be number 2, and we still continue that storyline there, even to the point where Shawn Michaels actually costs the Intercontinental title for Chris Jericho against Booker T. Another important seed that you'll definitely want to hold on to. We go to No Way Out, and DDP is actually going to be helping out Scott Steiner a little bit. I'm going to tell you this right now. Scott Steiner's only getting one World Heavyweight title shot. Just one, Scotty. We don't need you stinking up the joint after 2 showings. We're just going to give you one. Scott Steiner versus Triple H at No Way Out. DDP is there to kind of ensure that Evolution is not going to be disrupting it too much, but in the end, Triple H picks up the victory. DDP is the one who goes on to win the Battle Royal and gets the title shot against Triple H at WrestleMania. I know people are going to be a little upset because Booker T should have gotten that spot, but trust me, Booker T is going to be a big-time player in the next showcase. So we have the matchup. It's DDP versus Triple H at WrestleMania. And I'm actually going to take a quick pause here, do a little commercial break, and also take a water break. We come back, we're going to be talking about WrestleMania season and what ultimately ends the career of Diamond Dallas Page. Stay tuned, guys. Be right back.
This is the Princess of Pro Wrestling, SoCal Val, inviting you to watch Grown Ass Women TV every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. GAW TV is the ultimate slumber party with me, Lisa Marie Varon, and Mickey James. Plus, special guests like Mick Foley, WWE's Paige, and more. We're live in the YouTube chat room every Wednesday for each episode premiere. So join us, and don't forget to bring a cocktail. Visit GawTV.com for more info. That's GAWTV.com. We'll see you there.
This is your pool party captain, Randy Fitzsimmons, and you're listening to the Game Changer Podcast. Pew, pew!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Game Changer Podcast. I am NateFNGreat, looking to change the game one day at a time. You can always follow me on Twitter as well as on Instagram at RealFNGame to just talk to me. Let me know what you guys think about professional wrestling as well as other great things. So, where we left off here was that DDP and Triple H are facing off against each other at WrestleMania. Now, what's really the build-up for this? Well, for Triple H, he thinks that he's the young, up-and-coming guy, and that DDP is just a quote-unquote old fart. That's basically what it is. And he also mentions the fact that, DDP, you've been the world champion in WCW. I don't know why I'm kind of making him sound a little bit British, but he basically is just like, you've been the world champion in WCW. But that was just a laughing stock of a company, especially when you were out wrestling. And DDP is literally just brutalized by Evolution, and it just seems like he's not going to pick up the victory. He even gets assaulted with a sledgehammer by Triple H, so he's going into this matchup with his ribs taped up, and it just seems like DDP is not going to win because of all these injuries that he did. But DDP, he's fighting, he's just clawing, he is thinking that he's got one more good run left in him to become the world champion. Triple H is just literally mocking him throughout this match. It's one of those things where he just thinks, it's funny seeing this old man just literally keep trying. But Triple H, he goes for the pedigree, but DDP, out of nowhere, bang! Diamond cutter, and he covers Triple H 1, 2, 3. On the biggest stage of them all, DDP becomes the World Heavyweight Champion. And I hate to be a buzzkill, DDP is only going to hold that title for a couple of weeks. And he's going to drop it back to Triple H. Ultimately, Diamond Dallas Page got his big moment at WrestleMania, and that's something that I do believe he deserves. Triple H, he's already had his WrestleMania moment quite a few times, actually, and there's no need for him to be, burying more people. So he had a great showing against, Triple H at WrestleMania. He has a good showing against Triple H on Raw, but he ultimately loses the title. We still keep that 6-man tag team matchup, but there's a few things that we're going to be changing up. It's going to be Shawn Michaels, Booker T, and Diamond Dallas Page versus Ric Flair, Triple H, and Chris Jericho. And in that matchup, DDP pins Triple H on the show, and he gets a rematch the night after Backlash, but ultimately Triple H picks up the victory. And this is where I would put the return of Kevin Nash. We build up and have that same storyline with Triple H and Kevin Nash going forward. Again, deal with that more a little bit later on. DDP from here on out is doing his deal where he is going to be helping groom the next generation of stars. He's having matches with guys like Christian, Booker T. He's battling up against guys like Rodney Mack, Chris Nowinski, Laurie Zastans. He's helping these new guys find their footing and building up, because now DDP has battled as, he's a former world champion, so he's going to have that great nostalgia going behind him, but he's also going to help create some new stars, and I think DDP definitely is one of those guys who would do that. We build up to a matchup against DDP and Booker T. I would actually have this matchup take place on the Madison Square Garden Raw, and during that match, Randy Orton gets involved and costs DDP this matchup. And when the match is over, he hits DDP with his own version of the Diamond Cutter, the RKO, which builds up a small deal, which builds it up to the match between DDP and Randy Orton at SummerSlam. Again, I know this takes a little bit away from the Elimination Chamber matchup, but that will be discussed a little bit later on. So, Diamond Dallas Page and Randy Orton, these two guys have a great matchup there. In the end, Randy Orton picks up the victory, and he is the quote-unquote now master of the cutter. And this also can push Randy Orton to really push that legend killer gimmick that he has, and he has more momentum going into his matchup with Shawn Michaels at Unforgiven. DDP's a bit in shock here, but he knows that he got outsmarted by the younger guy. So DDP continues to have some matches on Raw. During the build-up to Survivor Series, he's the one who actually gets put in the place of Booker T, who is going to be in a world title matchup in the main event of Survivor Series. Again, talk about that later on. But the mere storytelling that you can talk about this, you can mention the fact that Stone Cold goes up to DDP and he says, "I know how tough you are. Hell, I've been in the ring with you. I know how tough you are. You're tougher than a $10 steak. Hell, you're tougher than like a $50 steak. So I need some of that toughness on my side to represent my team." And DDP, he more than obliges with it. So we get that, but unfortunately, Team Austin does fail to win the matchup, which unfortunately banishes Stone Cold Steve Austin from Monday Night Raw. That still stays the same. DDP still thinking, you know what, I can still do this. I can still the victory. He actually says that I want to be next. Meaning, at Armageddon, it's going to be Diamond Dallas Page versus Goldberg. I want to recreate some of that Halloween Havoc magic because in all honesty, guys, it's worth it. Having DDP versus Goldberg in this matchup would definitely be just absolutely wild. It would be crazy. In the end, though, Goldberg picks up the victory over Diamond Dallas Page. DDP, he loses in the Royal Rumble matchup. So literally, DDP is taken off of TV for a while. And he's just in the locker room, just thinking, do I still have it? Do I still have, the drive? Do I still have that edge to be a wrestler? Or is my time up? And there's a part of him that thinks my time can't be up. I still feel like I can keep going. But ultimately, he believes that there's only one way to do that. At WrestleMania 20, he wants to do something that he's done in the past, but something that nobody has ever done in their entire careers. He wants to be the one who beats The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And we don't even have to mention the numbers. You can just literally say Undertaker is undefeated at WrestleMania. And you can literally talk about the numbers after the match has taken place. DDP can talk about how my first matchup here in WWE was against The Undertaker. I beat him at No Way Out before WrestleMania a couple of years ago. The fact of the matter is, I know I have his number. I know that I can beat him. I know that I can be the one that ends him. Now, during this time, Undertaker had been buried alive, and he would have been doing this whole deal with, Kane, because, I am not afraid of you. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Undertaker has found a way to, take out Kane for a while. Kane is basically written off of TV, and a lot of people are saying, well, The Undertaker was buried alive, if you remember. But DDP says, no. I'm not talking about American Badass Undertaker. I know that he is a Prince of Darkness. I know that he is the Lord of Darkness. I know that he is a dead man. I want to fight that Undertaker at WrestleMania. So we see these vignettes, and basically it's telling DDP, be careful what you wish for. And the build up to the final, Raw to WrestleMania is DDP again talking about how he beat The Undertaker, and then how it's going to really help revitalize his career once he beats The Undertaker at WrestleMania, when he puts that one mark, that one tally on The Undertaker's streak, and that he is going to be able to take on anyone. Hell, he may go for another run for the World Heavyweight title after the match is over, after the event is over. Lights go out. Titantron just flickers. We get that creepy, ominous music. We get the growling of animals. And it literally just has WrestleMania 20. DDP. Literally, you have the nice little effect where it just seems like a little bit of liquid. I don't know if they can get away with blood during this time. I'm going to say that they can, but a little bit of blood just trickles on the DDP deal, and it just melts those D's away, and it changes it to R.I.P. So the match is set. Diamond Dallas Page versus The Undertaker, WrestleMania 20. And DDP states that if he can't beat The Undertaker, he doesn't know what he's going to do. But he says that losing is not an option when it comes to this. Excuse me. So we have the match. DDP comes out with quite possibly one of the best, one of the best entrances you could see at a WrestleMania. I see, those city things, and it's like a diamond city. DDP comes out, and he is just looking his absolute best. He's looking his absolute fittest. He just looks like he is in his top physical condition. DDP is in the ring. Looks like he's ready. Lights go out. And we just hear, "Oh, yes!" Out comes Paul Bearer, the Druids. We get that classic Undertaker dead man deal. He comes out with his new music, comes out with his, coat, his hat. He is that Undertaker of old again. The matchup is what you would expect. It's a slugfest between two of wrestling's greatest, and we see, again, some of the things we've seen before. Undertaker, he hits the last ride, covers 1, 2, DDP kicks out. We see Diamond Dallas Page, he hits the diamond cutter on Undertaker. 1, 2, Undertaker kicks out. Choke slam, 1, 2, kick out. Second diamond cutter, 1, 2, Undertaker kicks out. And DDP is just thinking like, what the hell do I have to do? So he's thinking, I'm going to try one more time. He goes for a third diamond cutter. But Undertaker is able to grab DDP and just lift him up in one of the most spectacular fashions. Hits a tombstone on DDP. 1, 2, 3. Undertaker remains undefeated at WrestleMania. Vanquishes DDP. So, after WrestleMania, DDP is off of TV for a couple of months. And then it's around, I would say, Bad Blood, around that time. They make an announcement that DDP is going to be talking about his future. And they actually have it on the Bad Blood pay-per-view. And it's in this pay-per-view that DDP, he has a sit-down interview with JR. JR, asked the question. He's like, well, DDP, you did say that at WrestleMania, if you didn't come out victorious, that you didn't know what was going to happen. Have you at least had some clarity as to what's going to happen? And DDP says, yeah, actually I have. I've had time to sit down and think about what I've accomplished in my career in wrestling and think about what I've done for the company. And I feel like I've reached a point where I can't give any more to the company that I already have. And he goes on and talks about, everything that he's done. He talks about, his great moments in WCW, the great moments he had in WWE, now in this storyline where he's been, Intercontinental Champion. He's been World Heavyweight Champion. He's headlined WrestleMania. He's done so many great things. He's worked with some of the best stars. And DDP says that it's time for me to walk away. And when he says that, he says, I'm hereby announcing that I officially retire. At Bad Blood, he announces his retirement. And he comes back in. He does his, cameos every now and then. Hopefully nothing too cheesy like the Legends panel where they're like, who's going to win between Cena and Brock? Who's going to do the blah, blah. No, just like these nice little cameos. And maybe even have him come on as like a guest general manager deal where he, can still bring out some of that charisma and some of those like nostalgic pops for WWE and WCW fans. Ultimately, WrestleMania 20 is his final matchup. No going to TNA, no going to any other company. He's had his fill of wrestling, and he gets inducted into the Hall of Fame at WrestleMania. Oh my gosh. I want to say that he maybe gets inducted in WrestleMania 21, but then I realized there's so many people that were on there. So, later on in life, he does get inducted into the Hall of Fame. Maybe it would take a couple of years before they do that. It might be the same years that he does get inducted. But he does get inducted into the Hall of Fame. He does have those brief cameos with wrestling. And, then eventually he lets his contract runs out in WWE and goes to AEW. And, yeah, honestly, I loved this new dealing with DDP and WWE because he felt more like a star. He felt more like a guy who could give more to the business. And honestly, I'm hoping that with this new kind of booking that we don't have him dealing with too much of the, incidental injuries. I would definitely keep him on Raw as opposed to SmackDown. So maybe that'll help this out a little bit. But also one of the things is that he's not a young, he's not a young pup. He's not going to be on a full-time basis, but when he does show up, he's going to give you everything he's got. Because I do believe that is what DDP truly is. He's a guy who will give you all that he's got no matter what. I just think that, DDP at that point would be definitely considered more of an attraction during that time. So you're not going to see him, wrestling so much on house shows, maybe like 1 or 2 a month. But you definitely would see him on, televised events, pay-per-views. That's more than enough for DDP. So that is how I would book DDP in WWE in his quote-unquote final years of wrestling. So I'm hoping that you guys liked it. I'm hoping that you guys enjoyed the new booking that he did. Like I said, it creates stars. It gives DDP a little bit more to do. And he definitely feels like a superstar coming out of it. So hope you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't, let me know. But just bear in mind, this is just my state of opinion. So you want to have your own rebook fantasy booking, go for it. I'll listen to it. I'll give my opinions on it. This is just the way I think DDP should have done. It should have been done with DDP. So you can check out me on all the different podcasting formats on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, so many different places, you guys. There's so many places that you can check out the Game Changer podcast. Definitely check it out. It's absolutely amazing. You can also check me out on Twitter as well as on the Instagram, like I said before, at RealFNGame. I will have more content that will be coming within the next couple of days, actually. And be sure to check out some merch. Be sure to buy some. I'm still in the process of working on new merchandise to sell out because you guys deserve that. You guys deserve a lot more fun when it comes to, merchandise. So hopefully I can get some more merch going. And yeah, that being said, this has been the Game Changer Podcast. I've been your host, NateFNGreat. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you in the next episode. Be safe, be smart, be respectful, and remember, you can make a difference one day at a time by being a game changer. Have a good one, guys. Toodaloo.